Hello and welcome to our third episode of the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm FPL Nima and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton. We are going to chat through our expectations for the season for Arsenal this year. We're going to talk a little about kind of how many points we think we're going to get, what we would consider success in terms of cup runs and league position. And then we're going to do a quick preview of the season opener against Crystal Palace on Friday night at Selhurst Park. And then going forwards, just to give you an idea of the structure, we're going to do a review of every match, generally on the Sunday after the game has been played. And then we're going to do a preview of the following match, much closer to the deadline after the presses. So probably every, I'd say, Friday lunchtime we're looking at the moment. So you're going to get 2 short form pods a week. Long gone are the days of 1 hour 30 in pre-season, and we will truly be bite-sized going forward. So if you find today's video or podcast, if you're listening on podcast, useful, please do hit that like at the end. It really helps us as we're just starting out. And if you're on Spotify or Apple, please do leave a review. But yeah, let's kind of go into it. So how are you, Clayton? I like your shirt today.
Yeah, I know. I just realized, well, it says a lot that I was wearing this top all day and didn't realize until the last minute I'm in a bloody Valencia one, not Arsenal. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm obsessed with collecting kits, and I just live in different football tops. So, we get called Club Shop FC, don't we? So I need to try and move away from that. No, I'm doing good. Really excited for Friday. Yeah, we'll talk about it. But yeah, first time in a long time I felt optimistic for a season, and yeah, can't wait. But more importantly, how was Portugal? How was your wedding?
Yeah, it was incredible, man. I got back on early Monday and I was away for like about a week. So we made a holiday of the wedding. Only took 3 years. We visited the venue in November 2019, and it's nice to finally go there and get everything sorted. As you know as well, I very conveniently timed the wedding outside of the Premier League season.
Yeah, good timing. I feel like that wasn't by accident.
It was originally meant to be in September, but once we postponed, I got back to my senses, realized I have an FPL account on Twitter, and that I can't not be around when the season starts. So, priorities, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure I'll get slated for it on the timeline. But yeah, no, it was great fun. I'm just like you. This is the most excited I've been for the start of the season in a long time. I think many would call me a delusional Arsenal fan because even in the bad years, I expected good things every season. And even after the 3 losses last year, I was kind of quietly optimistic about how it would then turn out. But this time, I genuinely feel like we're in a position of strength. We've strengthened the first 11. We've brought in really kind of raised the technical ceiling of the team with signings like Zinchenko and Jesus to start in the team. But then we've also really strengthened our bench. I looked at one of our benches towards the tail end of last year, and it was a sight for sore eyes compared to now when you've got, say, the likes of Smith Rowe, Vieira, who's also very technical. You got a bench of potentially one of White, Saliba, Tommy. You got a bench of one of Zinchenko or Tierney. It just finally feels like we have some options, and it sounds like the window isn't quite done yet. We're focusing on some outgoings, which I don't think we'll see before the Palace opener. But once those outgoings are gone, I'm again quietly optimistic we may see 1 or 2 more signings.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about delusion, and I'd say I've probably been branded the same, but the delusion was never like, especially in the previous years. I can't remember the last time I thought going into a season, I kind of expect and hope to get top 4. So even same as you last season, after those 3 games, I was quietly optimistic, and I was optimistic in the sense that I still thought we could achieve what was the goal back then of top 6. But I don't know if you remember or if your timeline was the same. Everyone's like, Arsenal going to get relegated, bottom half, this, that. So it wasn't delusion in the sense of, we're going to go bloody win the league or get top 4. It was just knowing the processes of our own club. And I think that's the thing. People label it as delusional, but it's not. It comes from a place of knowing and watching your team week in, week out, seeing the processes behind the scenes and stuff like that. And that forms the opinion. It's not just fucking hell, I think we're going to go win the league this year. Because who benefits from kidding yourself? So yeah, I don't know. The delusion tag's interesting because I definitely get that a lot, but I think it's genuinely based on logic. So we'll see how it goes.
That's a good way of framing it, because you are right. I think a lot of my thought process is based on watching what's unfolding behind the scenes of the club and seeing that there is a plan, right? Perhaps sometimes it doesn't always work out the way we want, but for the first time in years, maybe since Wenger left, we're actually starting to get to a point where there is a cohesive long-term strategy. I think we had a few seasons after he left where there was a lot of plaster style signings where, we'd go and get players like Willian. We'd bring them in on high wages because we were just convinced that let's just get someone for now that will get us into the Champions League, for instance. But these guys were looking to kind of retire and have a comfortable life in London. It wasn't perhaps the right fit. Whereas now we're kind of buying players with a specific profile, a certain technical level. We're moving to a more kind of, I guess, zonal style of play. And I'm sure we'll talk about that today, where it feels like perhaps what people know about Arsenal from last season or even the season before needs to fundamentally change, because we're no longer kind of having players who just play one position. We have players who are comfortable in areas of the pitch, and they can, depending on the opposition, potentially interchange. So even the idea of who's our two starting centre-backs, we may see a little bit more of like a Pep-style rotation long-term, where he did rotate some of his centre-backs despite them doing well together. So you might see like a Saliba play against certain opposition versus White or Gabriel playing against a different opposition. So that's exciting. My biggest happy moment now is that we don't need to kind of rely again on another one of the old players like Cedric to be like the cover.
That's what Mike said in the chat as well.
Yeah, exactly. So big call out from Mike. I think that's a big part, like relying on people like Cedric and Holding, and then instead having Saliba and Zinchenko.
It's massive.
That's big. That's massive. Yeah, that's massive. I think how we should approach it, I guess, is we can put our predicted lineup for the season up for the kind of first game week, what we expect to see. I don't think there'll be any shockers there. We expect it to be the same as the last preseason games, right? But while we go through that team, maybe we can also talk a little bit about kind of how many points we think we should be targeting, what we would consider success for the season.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess before we actually look at the Palace game, should we talk a little bit about that? Just hopes, expectations for the season. Like you said, how many points? Or do you want to go through the actual lineup?
Let's maybe just talk about the lineup, but then focus on the hopes for the season off the back of it rather than the Palace game. I think for the podcast listeners, like it's just worth kind of just showing how different this team might look to, say, the game week 1 team last season against Brentford. I only see a handful of players who are in this team starting that were there last year. So I think Ben White started that game against Brentford. I believe Xhaka probably did as well. And maybe Martinelli, and like that's like 2-3 players who started that game.
That's mental when you say it like that, isn't it?
So yeah, just from like a season ahead, that's why I kind of wanted to pull this up, because I think it's a big contrast to where we were a year ago. We've done our business
read it
early
out for the podcast.
Yeah, of course. So for the podcast listeners, we've got Ramsdale in goal. We have Zinchenko left back, partnered with Gabriel, Saliba, and White in the defense. We have Partey as the kind of lone pivot, with Xhaka and Odegaard as the 8s either side. We have Martinelli left wing, Jesus striker, and Saka right wing. So that's kind of the starting 11 we're expecting to see. It's the same one we've seen in the last few games of the preseason.
I feel like it's going to be a rare thing this season where the lineup sort of picks itself. But I think the only thing is this is a 0.0001% chance, and I'd be fuming if it happens. Cedric got minutes in preseason, but I don't expect to see him at all. I think, like I said, for once, this will be the team that picks itself, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens going beyond and seeing how Tomiyasu, Tierney, Smith Rowe are eased back in. And I think similar to what Mike said about the cover we have now, like think of our bench now compared to what you said at the back end of last season. Like now we've got people like, assuming they're match fit and in the squad, Tierney, Tomiyasu, Smith Rowe, add Vieira into that. I personally am really excited by Nketiah as an option this year. I think he's developed a lot more to his game than I thought he had.
But even Lokonga, right? Like he looked great as an 8. I wonder, like, could he play more advanced as a midfielder? Because he's got a lot of kind of attributes in all thirds of the pitch as a CM.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's not ready to be a lone pivot number 6 like Partey, but he could do a job off the bench as an 8. Like he's got great dribbling abilities, and like he could carry that ball forward, be a ball carrier for us, which I think we've been lacking ball carriers over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. But I think, adding him as well, and Nketiah, like I said, I feel comfortable if we're chasing a game, bringing him off the bench, switching formations, going 2 up top. Like, I just think the variety we've got now is really exciting. And I think, we've got good depth options as a team. And I'm really excited. So on that, there's excitement. That's obviously the predicted lineups for Palace. How do you actually think Palace goes on Friday? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so I think it's never nice playing at Selhurst Park under the floodlights for the season opener with the whole world watching. That's for certain. Like I'd say that at this point, like although I'd like to think we can win and we have enough to push through, I wouldn't be too upset with like a point there, as long as we can then go on to win most of the next four up until game week 5, and then we play Man United in game week 6. So if we win, it will be a huge positive start to the season. I'm not convinced it will be so easy. I think towards the tail end of last year, Palace's stats, especially at home at Selhurst Park, defensively, they were top tier. They were like top 3, top 5 defense. So
Yeah.
they know what they're doing and they're going to be difficult to play against. The biggest kind of, I guess, positive is with Gallagher gone. I do think that they don't have any other player that can do what he was doing in midfield for them. So that's a big plus for us. And also their preseason was a bit out of sorts. So I think only something like 11 first team players traveled on the preseason tour.
Yeah, they split their camps or something, didn't they?
Yeah, most of them didn't come on the tour. And I'm a big believer of kind of the momentum carrying through from preseason. I know it's mainly for raising fitness, right? Like you can't read too much into the results. But if you've got kind of core parts of your 11 not gelling together and playing together and building fitness and minutes together, you would hope that where we've gone and done our business early, unlike last summer, we've had time to let our players bed in and like see the link ups between Jesus and Saka, Jesus and Martinelli. Saliba's come in, got minutes under his belt. I'd like to think that, you know, those kind of things are a big positive for us. And that I would say that we may struggle to score the first goal. I would take a scrappy 1-0 win, but I'm very confident that once we get that first goal, perhaps we can get up to 2-0. That's kind of my thinking. Having said all that, as I say, 1-1 would not shock me.
If you had to put money on a prediction?
I think for me, I'm going to go with 2-0.
2-0 to Arsenal,
yeah, to Arsenal, just to be clear.
Interesting. Okay, I would bloody take that. I think I'm similar in a similar boat to you, to be honest. I think one thing I tweeted this week was I feel like the whole world is watching, and our season. I know we shouldn't care what opposition fans think and say, but I feel like from the outside, our season again is going to be defined by what happens on Friday, and it really shouldn't. I think, like we showed last year, first 3 games was atrocious for, again, logical reasons, but as we showed last year, it doesn't define the season. Look how close we got to top 4, and I think Palace away, no matter what time of year it is, Friday night, like Saturday 3 p.m, August, September, November, whenever, I think it's one of the toughest places to go. It's a tight, intimidating pitch and stadium, and yeah, like you said, those metrics, I think on all of the expected stats for the season, they were kind of like a top 6 team. And I know it was specifically in that last 10 game period you said, but I'm pretty sure I heard somewhere that for expected stats, they were like meant to come 6th or something as well. So Vieira
sounds
knows
like Brighton the year before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, to that, I think that's why I always get a little bit nervous about the way we play and try and impose our game. Is all about structure on a pitch, and it's not kind of rigidness, it's just maximizing space. And I always think that's why we look so good at home, because like the pitch is flipping massive. Like we can really maximize the spaces between different positions, different zones, like you said. And I think that's harder to impose at grounds like Selhurst Park. So that's one thing I'm intrigued by. I think I take your point and I agree. I think Gallagher not being there is massive. Like he was absolutely relentless last season, and I know he wasn't the only reason that we suffered. Like that's the thing, right? I actually forgot Tierney. I'm pretty sure was injured, missed that game. We had Tavares.
Yeah, so Mike says in the chat as well. I'll put the comment up on the screen. Obviously Gabriel himself had a mare as well, didn't he? Tavares played. He got subbed at half time.
That's the thing. So going into this game with hopefully like a full fresh 11, it should make a difference. And I think, again, similar to your point, where I agree, obviously, let's state the obvious. If we get the first goal, we should be able to control the game. For me, it's all about the first 10 minutes. I think last season, we just got absolutely bullied in that first 10 minutes. And I think as a squad, obviously the proof will be in the pudding, but I think we're in a better position through, you talk about it all the time, technical security. I think we're in a better position to go there and hopefully assert our game through possessional technical dominance and just ride out those first 10, 15 minutes, sucker the crowd a little bit, take the sting out, assert our game, and then hopefully the chances will come. So That's how I'm
Yeah, so
feeling for it.
I
I
think
am a
that's
bit
pretty.
nervous, but
Yeah, I
I think
am
we can
definitely
be
a
all right.
bit nervous. But I don't see all those things that went wrong last time going wrong either. So like
Me too.
Gabriel being terrible, Tavares being subbed, Xhaka moving to left back, Party getting injured. Like on the crowd side of things, I think that does make a big difference. Obviously, we've seen the All or Nothing documentaries coming out on Friday, and there was a
I'm excited for that.
preview, wasn't there? I think some people got invited to the Emirates to have a pre-launch screening, and they've seen the first 3 episodes. We saw some of Arteta's more innovative coaching tactics. Doesn't
I
mean they all
found that
work.
so cringe. I can't lie. Like
Yeah.
hats off for innovation, and like, I'm all for it. But I found it cringe, and also I don't buy the famous Anfield atmosphere. I find that so overrated. But anyway, that's one for another day.
Yeah, no, I think the key thing there was whether it worked or not, because obviously we lost that game 4-0. For anyone who hasn't seen it yet, he obviously blasted out You Never Walk Alone from speakers on the pitch to get them used to the hostile atmosphere. It seems like that for years before this, decades in other sports as well, a lot of teams do this to regenerate or like recreate hostile atmosphere, opposition stadium. So I think the idea was there, but Ramsdale himself said recently that he doesn't think Arteta will do that specific idea again. But what I liked about it was that he clearly has a very specific attention to detail, and he does like to do things that are a bit odd. Like I think before the North London derby, this tactic worked much better. He got Stuart McFarlane, an Arsenal fan, photographer of the club for decades, to come in and talk to the team and say what it would mean for the fans and how much the fans love them. And when they go out there to play against Tottenham in the Emirates, like how the crowd is behind them. And we absolutely ran them rampant and were 3-0 up in the first 30 minutes. So I think it's interesting to see like some of the stuff he does. One thing just to note, you did say people might see the first game as the be all and end all. I think that is very true. So if we were to lose against Palace and then the release of All or Nothing on the same day, I do think the Twitter timeline opposition fans will be insufferable for the next week till our next match.
And
so
that's
I really
why I'll just delete the Twitter app, to be honest. Like honestly, I don't care. Like I'm not. So my predicted score, for what it's worth, is 2-1 Arsenal. I think it will be a tight one. I don't think it will be easy. I think, like I said, if we can kind of control that first 10, 15, and then control the rest of the game, I'm just going 2-1. But I'm not going there expecting 3 points, if that makes sense. So, like you said, I don't know. It's just this feeling I get from people where there's been like, for justified reasons, pre-season hype, right? But it's not hype because of the scores. It's hype because what we're seeing on the pitch is translatable and sustainable. That's the biggest thing, and that's why we're so excited. And I think going into Palace, I'm going to sound like a parrot. It's a tough place to go. So not expecting a win at all, but unfortunately, if we do lose, Twitter shall be deleted from my phone, and it's just more for my own sanity, because I don't doubt come game week 6. People will be, oh, Arsenal are good. I never saw that coming. It's like, well, look beyond just one game.
I think so this is just a quick thing so I think we've talked about Palace quite a bit. I think we were probably going to do season expectations, then Palace, but because I brought up the lineup, I think I threw our flow a bit. So let's give a very short overview of the season expectation for about 5 minutes. And then what we'll do is we'll go back into FPL, because obviously since the FPL episode that we did 2 weeks ago, quite a few things have changed. So I'm keen to give an update on who we think are perhaps the best free Arsenal assets, which midfielder is the best midfielder to go for. So we will come to that very shortly. But
it's a good start, me spending half hour talking about Zinchenko as a left 8, only to then be 99% sure he's playing left back for us. So we'll correct that one.
It's a shame we can't re-edit that episode. But I think the general ideas and the stats we gave, especially around things like, Smith Rowe versus Martinelli versus Saka, Jesus and Nketiah, I think those stats still stand. So if you find like that today's content on FPL isn't sufficient, definitely do go back to episode 2 that was more FPL specific, and most of it's still relevant apart from Zinchenko playing left centre mid. So feel free to fast forward through those bits. So in terms of season expectation then, so obviously we finished on 69 points last year. We missed out on top 4 by a point, I believe. We kind of capitulated at the end 2 points. So through lack of squad depth and a very young, inexperienced squad, we kind of fell apart at the end. I don't think there was just any one game that cost us. It was maybe the January gamble we took. In some ways, I'm happy with it because we may have ended up with players who didn't want to be here. Strikers like Vlahovic would have paid like 80 mil for. They've not really been tearing it up since they moved elsewhere. And by not signing those players and not panic buying in January when the window wasn't as good, we've been able to execute a much better plan this summer, I think. So I'm delighted by Jesus, the price we paid, 4-time Premier League winner coming into his prime with a very big winning mentality, same as Zinchenko. I think that's something that I believe will raise the ceiling in our team, because we have a young squad, but we've now brought in kind of experienced winners who come from an environment where winning was the only option. Any single loss of a match for Pep is not seen as acceptable. And we've now got players like that who are coming in. And I think we saw it a little bit in preseason, where the energy and work rate from Jesus, it was similar when Sanchez first came. The players around them, they feel like they need to mirror it. Yeah, because everyone else is like, wait a second, like, damn, these guys are really going for it. They won't accept defeat. And it just really brings up everyone's levels, I think, and energy levels. So I'm excited to see. I think he's our biggest kind of signing since Sanchez in terms of what it will do for the rest of the team around him and how it will raise their levels. And obviously the young squad, they need to be around proven winners. And there's a good chance for him to become the main man somewhere and not have to play at right wing and really be the number 9. So that's exciting. So in terms of what I expect, I think we said previously, we want to see an improvement on the points tally for certain. So I would want to see somewhere kind of between 75 to 80 points this season in the league. I think 75 points is the minimum floor that I would want to see from us to consider it a success. So not quite talking about league position, but I would want to see 75 points, a 6-point improvement. I think 75 points is probably enough for top 4, but if not, somewhere within that 75 to 80 point region should be. The other side of things...
We would be like really unlucky to miss out on top 4 with 75 points. I think that's only happened once, and ironically it was us. So.
I think even last season our points would have been enough for top 4, so the year before. So it is painful, but it is what it is. In terms of what I want to see a cup run. So I do want to see, like, now that we have a better squad, a deeper squad, I want to see us make a big cup run in the Europa especially, and maybe the FA Cup too. We kind of thrown away the FA Cup the last 2 years. It is the Arsenal Cup after all, so I'd like to see us try a bit harder there.
For number 15.
Yeah, number 15. I really want us to win the Europa, to be perfectly honest with you. We flirted with it in previous years, but I would kill to win the Europa League. Like, I really want to get that off our shoulder, the idea of like no modern European trophies. We do have 2 European Cups. Obviously, they've been relabeled as Europa and Champions League since, and perhaps they don't carry the same credibility as these 2 competitions now do. But I really want us to win the Europa League. Obviously, winning that gets us automatic entry into the Champions League, regardless of league position. I think for me, if we were to kind of improve the points tally to 75 and win Europa specifically, that would be a successful season for me to continue building on from. Even if we miss Champions League because we miss top 4 and we get 75 points, let's say, or 74 points, as long as I feel like there is a new identity and the team is moving forward and there's a clear plan and we're going to continue to improve year on year, I would still be okay as long as we made those deep cup runs. I think what I can't accept is getting out of all the cups early again, and then on top of that, kind of missing out on top 4 by a significant margin. So it would have to kind of be a deep cup run and like a 1 or 2 point miss. I know it's not what you want to hear. Like, obviously we do want to come top 4 and we do want to win the Europa, but I just think it's easy to... People do a like results-based analysis, and that's similar to the kind of the talk that Arteta gave before the Liverpool game, right?
It's
like
all about the process, isn't it? And like, I know that's cliche, but it really is.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it's like the decision making. Sometimes the outcome's out of your hands, and like if we'd beaten Liverpool in that game, people would be saying he's a genius for playing "You Never Walk Alone." The way we lost, obviously, they think it's a joke. I don't think you should always calculate like the process being done just on the result and outcome. There's a lot of factors in play. So I'd like to see that there is a clear process and we are improving. In terms of points, we said 75 points minimum. So I think there's 2 things we need to do to get there. Last year, I believe Auber and Lacazette had like 9 open play goals between them. So we need our strikers to contribute more. Not just Jesus, but I think what's gone under the radar is Nketiah has like 6 goals himself in the preseason. So having that option, we're going to need 2 strikers who can score this year. And that excites me. So if he can come off late in a game in the bench, and we move to a front 2, whether Jesus moves to the wing or Nketiah plays on the wing off the bench, I think there's an opportunity here to have 2 centre forwards who can score goals finally. So I think we're going to need them both to score. We're probably going to need at least 10 goals from Nketiah, maybe 15 goals from Jesus for this to be a big difference on last year and improve our points tally. The other part is over the last few years, our goals from central midfield are severely lacking. Like compared to the other big six or top six clubs, we have like 10 to 12 goals from centre mid in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Some of the other clubs have like 30, 40, 50 goals from centre mid. So we are hugely lacking there. I'd like to think that we can improve that significantly. I know
I
Odegaard
think
has
we
been asked
will.
to
Like,
score more, right?
yeah, you can see it in the structure as well. Like when we're attacking with a five now, and like I don't think Xhaka's output will change, but positionally he is in the box when we're attacking as a team. Like that unit of the left winger, the 2-8s, the centre forward, and the right winger, they're always in the box, and I think that is a clear plan from Arteta. Like you said, he's been quite vocal about needing to score more goals, right? I think what was it? He said 99, 100 goals. Like that was
Yeah, he
quite
wants like a
high.
90 to 100 goals a
Yeah,
season from the team.
that may
Yeah.
have seemed quite hyperbole, but you can tell that's genuinely where he's aiming to get to. And I don't think that will achieve that this season, but you can tell he's not messing around. Like, he's got these expectations, but he's also got plans in place to achieve them. And I think in terms of like season expectations from me, I'm very similar to you, to be honest. I'm not doing it on a league position basis. I'm this is being pedantic, but I was 76 points just because I like to think of 2 points per game. Like James from Planet FPL always talks about that, and I've always been like that as well. If you get 2 points per game, like yeah, you have got to be so unlucky to miss out on top four. So yeah, I think 76 points is, like you said, the floor. But I think I tweeted out midweek. I can't shake this feeling that, and a lot of this key players staying fit, how we rotate the squad across multiple competitions. I can't shake this feeling that you remember that season. I think it was like 16, 17 or something. Spurs went from 70 points to 86 the next season. And I feel like it's always the case with these teams that kind of blow up outside of the top two. No one is able to proactively forecast that. Everyone's so reactive to it. And I'm getting that feeling around Arsenal as well. I get the feeling that something's brewing, that we've seen the pieces of the jigsaw put together for a few years under Arteta, and it feels ready to go boom. And I can already force, if this all if and everything's perfect, but I can already foresee it. People going, "Oh my gosh, how did that happen?" And it's like, it's been simmering for a while, and I genuinely think that's like absolute best case. By the way, I think we are capable of putting together a campaign similar to when Spurs went from 70 to 86 points. And the reason I say that is the consistency in our performances when everyone's fit. I think it was January to like March, April, we were bonkers. Like the metrics we were putting up, we were, I think, similar to Liverpool City in metrics. And I'm not saying we're
Yeah,
as good
yeah,
as
no.
them or we can sustain that for
We were the joint most informed team in Europe for those 2, 3 months. So
in
I
your.
think
Oh, really?
we were on par with Man City for points from our games. I think it was
And I
like
think
25 out. No, it was like 26 out of 28 points we had. It was like
wow,
all
okay.
wins and one draw or something like that. It was insane. It was basically insane. Like we were doing
Yeah,
so well and then we capitulated.
and I'm sure, like, yeah, but again, we capitulated for there were logical reasons, right? Like we lost key players and stuff, and that's why I keep coming back to as key players staying fit, but that depth that we have added to the squad, it's not just numbers, it's quality. And that's so big for us. And I think looking back to that January to March, April period, fair enough, the fixtures were fairly easy. But what I saw in that period was things that I talk about quite a lot. It's sustainable, translatable things that can be sustained. And I think I'm looking at this season, going into games thinking, especially at home, I've been quite vocal about this. I think we're absolutely going to blow teams away at home. And I've spoken before about the Emirates being a fortress this season. I didn't actually mean it in like an atmosphere sense, as good as the atmosphere has been and has improved. I meant more a fortress in terms of teams coming to the Emirates. And other than Liverpool City and like Chelsea, maybe, not many teams coming to the Emirates thinking, yeah, we're coming away with 3 points or a draw today. I genuinely think it's going to have that feel to it this season because of how well we stretch the pitch, impose our structure on teams. Yeah, I just think we're so good structurally and tactically that teams are really going to struggle against us at home. And anyway, going back to the main point and the sort of expectations for the season, that's why I'm confident that we can put a campaign of between 75 and 80, 85 points, 85 being best case, but that's quite unlikely. The cup run thing, I'm with you. I would like a cup run, but to be honest, I want all of the eggs in the Europa basket. As much as I love the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, I don't love the Carabao Cup. I'm same as you. I love the FA Cup as the Arsenal Cup. I don't think personally, like you may disagree, I don't think we have the squad to sustain 4 trophy campaigns personally. Sorry, not 4. Like going for top 4 in
including
the
the
Premier
league. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I would like, if we can try and put all of our eggs into the basket, or trying to get that 75, 76 points minimum in the league and going far in the Europa League. So then that way, if we do fall short in the league, we're going for the Champions League spot via winning the Europa League. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. And I think it's doable. Again, I don't think it's completely madness to ask for that. I think the Europa League is quite dependent on who drops down from the Champions League. Like, there's so many external factors that can influence that, right? But I don't think it's outrageous to hope for that at all, by any means.
No, I think, yeah, I agree. Our expectations are probably quite aligned for the whole season. In one, I think another thing worth saying is, just based on your point of Arteta wanting to score more goals and talking about 90 to 100 goals this season, and getting more goals from our centre forwards and our centre mids compared to previous years. I think people will be a bit surprised, as you say, when, especially at home, I don't think we'll be going for kind of 1-0, 2-0. Like, you're going to see a lot more kind of 4-0 kind of games where we're going to be looking to turn the screw like Liverpool might. They don't stop scoring. Like when Spurs and Chelsea go up a lot of the time, they look to kind of just defend that. I think Arteta will look to turn the screw and really go for it, especially at home. So I'm excited. And I think that kind of segues nicely into the FPL part, because from an
I was
FPL
just going
point
to
of
ask
view,
one more thing, your opinion on. So obviously we talked about 75, 76 points there, and that should be enough to get top 4. How do you feel about the likes of, well, in my opinion, Liverpool, City, top 2 locked, but how do you feel about the likes of Chelsea, Tottenham, Man United when thinking of top 4?
That's a really good point, actually. We should definitely cover them briefly as well. So I think Tottenham have like a gem in Conte. He's a proven winner and he'll want to win stuff. You can see very clearly he's built a squad over the summer that filled in all the gaps. He's brought in wing backs to help with his system to get the ball up to Kane and Son. He's brought in a CDM in Basuma, their version of Partey, I guess, which is why we probably wouldn't have gone in for him, because we have a lone 6. They have really been planning. They've added depth to the front 3, so they're not just reliant on Kane, Son, and Kulusevski. They have brought in Richarlison, who's also a proven Premier League player, albeit he does have a bit of a temperament issue. I think he's looking to win something in the next couple of years, or he'll just leave, and he won't really care that he's got an aging squad and he's brought in like a 33-year-old Perisic, and Kane and Son are older. So, yeah, I definitely think that at this point in time, I see them as more of a contender for top 4 or maybe top 3 than even Chelsea. I think with Chelsea, their preseason hasn't looked great, although I say don't look too much into results. It's about building fitness. And I do think replacing Rudiger will not just like be smooth. I think they'll probably blow away Everton, who now also don't have Calvert-Lewin, who's out for a month.
Yeah,
he seems to always be out. Yeah, so we dodged a bullet not signing him when they were quoting 80 million over a year ago, and his price has just been dropping and dropping from not playing any games. Yeah, I think they'll blow away Everton, and then they might take a few games to find their feet after that, Chelsea, especially when they face Tottenham in the second week. So I think Chelsea, they're one that could potentially miss out on top 4 if things don't gel as quickly as they need. But Spurs, I'm more confident of them actually having a great season just because of Conte and him buying players for his system. United, I think, is a weird one because they've got a great coach. They have looked better in preseason, but no one could come in for Ronaldo. No one wanted him, and he's now going to be back in that team. And I wonder what impact that has on the front 3 or front 4, because yes, they've brought in Eriksen for rotation. They've brought in exciting young wing-back talent in Malacia, but they've been chasing De Jong for 2-3 months now. I don't quite know what's happening. They have brought in Lisandro Martinez for that centre-back role to partner probably with Maguire or one of them in Varane. And I think they have strengthened. Their coach is much more tactically inclined than Ole was. But I do feel like United are maybe a couple of seasons behind us in the sense that they're going through what we were going through. Like, they're trying to get rid of a lot of players who are maybe mediocre on high wages. No one wants them. They're seeing it's much harder to bring in players than they thought it would be.
While I do agree with that, but I also think their level of squad is slightly better than the level of squad Arteta inherited. So I feel like while they've got as much to do, they're slightly ahead in that journey, if that makes sense. So
That makes
I
sense,
don't,
yeah.
yeah, but I don't think they'll be in the conversation for top 4 this season, though. Saying
But
that,
I think
is
they're
it?
on their way back. Yeah, like
Yeah,
they're gonna be
it
looking to
depends
come
on
back fast.
their backroom, like their boardroom, though. Like since we ditched Raul, we have been spot on everything, strategy, transfers. Like I wish we would improve the outgoing sales and the figures on that, but that's something we can work on with the increased value of this squad. But United, like, I don't know. Is he really getting the targets he wants? Like De Jong's clearly been identified as a priority, and they've not really made that happen. And I don't know. That I think that's just one to watch. I feel like with our project, everyone is harmonious and in sync with everyone's on the same hymn sheet. It'll be interesting to see if that happens at United as well, because that's absolutely needed to
Yeah, like the
achieve a
recent news, which
rebuild.
was very strange as well, is they had a preseason game where there was a few players in the director's box, and Ronaldo got subbed as well, I think. And then they all kind of left at the 70th minute mark. And at first it was said, the club gave them permission, it's fine, there's no issues. And then today, a couple of papers have come out and saying that Ten Hag's actually saying that he's not impressed with the players leaving early. So it's like, what's going on? Like, is he basically saying like that he is disappointed in Ronaldo, like with everything that's happened this summer? I don't know. So there is definitely maybe less harmony there, but they do have a stronger squad he's inherited, I think.
I feel
I do
similar
think,
to you on all 3
yeah,
of those teams, to be honest. The one thing, though, is, again, it depends on your timelines and who you follow, but in my circles, everyone's got Spurs as locked for 3rd, and I don't buy it. I really don't. Like, I agree with you. I think they've strengthened very well for their own project. Like, they've identified their specific holes and filled those. But tactically, when I look at the 2 teams and compare us and them, I think we've got so much more tactical versatility. And people are really focusing on, like, okay, last day of the season, they beat Norwich 5-0. They're forgetting the games before. They really struggled against low blocks. They got a dodgy pen to beat Burnley. Like, and I don't want to
yeah, the
make this talking
1-0,
about,
yeah.
yeah, I don't want to focus on the opposition too much, but I just think the reason I wanted to bring that up is I don't buy this narrative that 3rd is locked for
That
Spurs
is
at
just
all.
locked in, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to go into this season thinking, fair enough, Spurs, Chelsea, they are also capable of putting 75, 76 points on the board. But I have got so much faith in our manager, team, and project to get that done ourselves that I'm just like, if you just tunnel vision, focus on yourselves, forget everyone else, get those 2 points per game. I think Chelsea and Spurs are capable of dropping points in games that people aren't really anticipating right now. And I think we're going to go into games and dominate more than people are expecting. I really do. So I think my mantra for this season is head down, focus on the Arsenal, get those 76 points on the board, and yeah, let the football do the talking.
Yeah, no. So I think we'll obviously revisit this, and we'll look at the review for Crystal Palace on Sunday after we see how it goes on Friday night. We'll do the next preview for the following game, Leicester at home. I think this is quite a funny one, which I like. So Glenn, who's here as well, he's kind of said Arsenal to win 1-0 against Palace, headed by Gabriel. So I do
I'd
think,
love that.
yeah, like I think Palace and Leicester are both quite fragile against set piece goals.
Big
They
time.
don't really defend them well. So from an FPL point of view, that is something that we will talk about, Gabriel, and whether he's perhaps better picked than Zinchenko at left back. Christopher, who just tuned in as well, is expecting a 3-1 win for Arsenal. So
Chris is off to Dubai on Friday, and I think he said he lands just as it was either as the second half starts or at full time. So hopefully when he lands, there's a nice little 3-1 there for him.
that would be nice, wouldn't it? So going on to FPL then. So obviously we've set up the mini league now. So it is in the video description, the podcast description, and on the Twitter account. So the league code is AV2ZQR. There is also an auto join link that you can use instead in the video and podcast descriptions. Do join the mini league. Would love to compete with you guys and play together this season and keep track of everyone's teams in the AFC BiteSizes family. So I've brought back the FPL prices. There's a couple to add here. So on the screen for the podcast listeners, we have Saka at 8 million, Ramsdale at 5 million, Odegaard 6.5 million, Tomiyasu 4.5, White 4.5, Gabriel 5 million, Tierney 5 million. We now do have Zinchenko at 5 million as well. We have Martinelli 6 million, Smith Rowe 6 million, Vieira 6 million, and Nketiah 7 million. And we also have Jesus as a striker at 8 million. So it is slightly changed since it was released. Obviously, we only signed Jesus and Zinchenko after the FPL official releases. But I guess last time we were talking, we'd kind of assumed that Zinchenko would play the left centre mid with Tierney being Tierney, like I warned you. It looks like Zinchenko is going to start the season there, and he offers a slightly different skill set there. So I think he perhaps can play that inverted fullback role better. And in possession, what you were saying about the 5 attackers, so kind of moving to a 2-3-5 in possession, he will be on the left side of Partey, where White will be on the right side. So the right back and left back kind of tuck in. And then I do think that, just speaking on that note, it does mean that actually when Zinchenko is playing left back in possession, he's basically a left centre mid. Now, I think against Sevilla, it was a slightly different type of game. Like, they did come at us and that suited us. But by coming at us, it meant we didn't have as much possession as we might want in games. And I think what people noticed was Zinchenko wasn't as high up the pitch as you would expect, which is natural for an inverted fullback. But they were expecting maybe he plays that left centre mid role kind of past the halfway line or in the opposition third, and he'd find more half spaces. He didn't quite do that. And I do think that's just because we didn't have the kind of possession that would complement that. So I think in games where we're at home and we're dominating possession, we will still see Zinchenko at left back, potentially quite high up the pitch, finding the half spaces in the final third, overloading the attack and the midfield. So I do think in terms of our entire back line, I still think he is the best bet in terms of getting the attacking output in the first kind of 8 weeks. The question just remains that when Tierney's back, will he come straight back in? Will Zinchenko move to left centre mid? If, we might still sign Tielemans or another centre mid target if we can get rid of players like Torreira and Maitland-Niles and a few others who are looking to get out the door. So there is the worry, but I think at least for the first few weeks, he will be nailed on. He's kind of, from my point of view, more exciting as a pick. However, Gabriel's also 5 million, right? And he's probably more nailed. I would have liked Tomiyasu or White at 4.5, but until we know more about who is going to be in that back line, it's too difficult for me. White is going to start right back. Will he slot straight back into right centre back once, Tomiyasu's back? I don't know.
It all depends.
Will Tomiyasu slot back in the team? Exactly. So I think once they're playing well, they're going to give Arteta a headache. It's a good headache to have, but Saliba's played very well so far. Is he going to be just dropped so White can go right centre back? I don't know. So maybe Saliba emerges as the 4.5 million gem, but again, it's just too risky for me to start with any of our 4.5 defenders. So I think if you're going to go for an Arsenal defender, I would be looking at Gabriel.
I'm tempted by Ramsdale, Well, I'm not tempted.
Yeah, so speaking of goalkeepers, so I think for me personally, like, it's either kind of Gabriel or Zinchenko. Zinchenko is more of a punt. Ramsdale, I really like. So he normally hoovers up the bonus compared to the other Arsenal defenders. And he's one of the few defenders at that price point who a clean sheet can easily net him 10 or 11 points in a game. So he's very capable of double-digit hauls. One of my worries is if we're going to play more attacking football, will he have less saves to make? So is there a chance that some of those bonus points will dry up? But I do think he is the best pick. If you don't need that 0.5 million, I'd like him a lot more than, say, Raya or Sanchez at 4.5. So I would try to get to him, and then you can use your defensive slot for someone else. I think I'd put Ramsdale above both Gabriel and Zinchenko. But if for whatever reason, like your team structure-wise, you need to get like a 5 mil defender, I still really like Gabriel Zinchenko as the options. I'm currently on Zinchenko. Okay. There is a chance I move to like another 5 million defender like Walker if they don't sign someone to replace Zinchenko at City. I may just start with Walker for a few weeks and have Ramsdale in goal instead. So I'm monitoring the situation closely, but I definitely Ramsdale. My order would probably be Ramsdale, personally Zinchenko, then Gabriel. But for most people, I think they'd put Gabriel ahead of Zinchenko if they weren't me. So just thought I'd be honest there with my bias.
And the attack, I think I can't find it. We had a question from Josh Topley. I don't know if you're able to put that up on the screen.
Yeah, I'll put the question up on the screen.
It segues nicely into the trending topic. Well, answer the question first, and then triple Arsenal attack. Are you in?
Yeah, so Josh Topley, for the podcast listeners, he says, who do you think's better, Saka or Martinelli? They're both obviously midfielders. Saka's 8 million, Martinelli 6 million. I think because of like just the sheer ownership of Jesus at like 72%, his preseason form, 7 goals. He's kind of nearly in every team that we see. Most attacks consist of one of Kane or Haaland with Jesus. That's kind of then meant that we don't see Saka as much in teams, but he's also had a great preseason. He's been our player of the year 2 years in a row. He is arguably one of the top 2 or 3 best 8 million mids in the game right now. I would kind of put him with, I'd probably be looking at kind of like Diaz, Saka, they're like my top 8 million mids. The problem is, a lot of people had seen Martinelli at 6 million and he was just incredible value. Like he feels very underpriced. And he's kind of, I think when we looked at the FPL episode last time, his big chances per 90 are like double that of Saka. It's at 0.66 versus 0.3. And he has looked incredible himself in preseason. He's had lots of assists. He did get a goal. Maybe he's not scored as much as he should. He's young. He's 20. I think with more game time and minutes, he will improve on his finishing. And a lot of the players at the club believe he's one of our best finishers already. So although his decision-making might be a bit raw and he could take slightly better shots in the final third, I think that will come. And I think something that's worth noting about him is since he joined when he was 18 to now, he's gone through a bit of a growth spurt. So he's actually grown quite a bit. And I think the way he runs has changed because of that. And he's still adjusting to like his new body composition a bit. He's kind of like taller than he was. And maybe it's not as easy to kind of do what he did against Chelsea when he sprinted half the pitch as it was then. What I love about him is he can play in any of the front three positions. And what we saw a lot in preseason was he was interchanging fluidly.
It's a fluid
in that
front three, isn't it? I think, people are going to tune in and watch Arsenal and be like, oh, why is Jesus on the left? And like, that's going to happen. Like, it's so fluid. And I think people are just worrying a bit too much about that. I personally think, for what it's worth, if Martinelli and Saka's minutes were similar throughout the season, I don't think the points would be too dissimilar. I think the difference, though, is Martinelli, I can see. I think he's first choice, I don't doubt that, but I can see him getting subbed a bit earlier than Saka and giving Smith Rowe some minutes. I can see the odd game where Martinelli gets a breather and Smith Rowe starts. And I feel the extra 2 million you're paying for Saka isn't because you think he's going to outscore Martinelli by 50 to 80 points. It's paying for that extra security in starts and minutes. So my personal opinion, squad structure wise, I'm going Martinelli and Jesus and then Ramsdale at the back, because I want a slice of the Arsenal defensive pie, because I think we're going to keep a lot of clean sheets this season. I really do, especially at home. I think there's a lot of fixtures I'm going to be going into expecting a clean sheet. And then similarly, I want double attack because I think there will be a lot of goals. And for me, it's just that 2 million saving on Martinelli over Saka that goes a long way to improving other areas of my team.
I think what's thrown me a bit,
FPL to you. I chat shit with FPL, so you go through.
No. So I think what threw me a bit is all this time I had Diaz locked in my team, but after the Community Shield and after Jota sounding like he's much closer to returning, I'm not as convinced that he can do what Mane was doing to the same numbers, as great as his last half season was. And Robertson for $1 million less just unlocks so much more in my team. So for me at the moment, I've kind of got a Robertson, Trent, Salah, Liverpool trio, which leaves the 8 million midfield slot available suddenly. And I'm really struggling where to go because Foden didn't take part in preseason, even though he just signed a new contract extension. Mahrez gets randomly dropped at any given time, no matter how good he is.
I quite like Mount as an option. I don't know what you
So
think
that's
about
who I'm on. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm on Mount at the moment. He's the 8 million mid I'm on instead of Diaz. But then there's a part of me that's kind of saying to me, do I just want to get Saka as well and just have Jesus, Saka, Martinelli just start the season with all three? Now, I don't rate the Palace away fixture much, right? But I think Leicester at home,
I think
is
Leicester's
actually
fine,
great. Man. Yeah, they've not done anything
fine.
this summer. They're about to sell their number one keeper. I think there's a shit show going on over there. And
then
so
it's Bournemouth, Fulham after that, isn't it?
So, 2 promoted teams. But not only that, Bournemouth, their manager's been moaning all preseason. He says he only has 2 fit centre-backs. He says he only has 11 players who are senior for his team. So a lot of that excites me as well. For me personally, that's kind of got me onto Leon Bailey as well. So I kind of think I want a player who plays against Bournemouth every week for the first 2 weeks. So I want Bailey at 5 million against them in game week 1. I want Haaland as a captain in game week 2 if you have KDB, fair play as well. And game week 3, triple Arsenal attack against that Bournemouth team. I'm licking my lips. Then Fulham, there's something there that really does excite me. So I'm toying with it. One option I'm considering is that I could just have the 2 attackers in Martinelli and Jesus and just wait till game week 3 when we come up against Bournemouth, and I'll have 2 free transfers by then. I will have saved 1 in game week 2. I'll be able to do a bit of a shift of my team structure, potentially decide who I want to bring in. Maybe Odegaard looks really good at this point, and suddenly, I decide at 6.5, I want him. So there's a lot of opportunity. I think triple attack, there will be a time this season when we may see a lot of people go for it. Even though our players' prices increased, I still think they're underpriced. So there is a lot of value in Arsenal for FPL.
Me too. I think so as well.
Just Glenn's point. So he says Saka on penalties, some set pieces.
I don't
So
think we can say with outright certainty he is on pens. I think.
yeah.
I don't
So I
know
think
what
what
you
I
think.
would say is like there was an interview with Odegaard in Norwegian press, and they
Yeah.
asked him as well, "Is Saka on like penalties?" And he was kind of like, "Oh, we kind of like pick based on who feels good that day," and like he was a bit like, obviously Saka just scored, so he probably feels good. So what we've noticed, right, is that ever since last season when Saka took the first one, he's pretty much been a system where whoever won it took it. So I feel like that's kind of how they're doing it because Saka won the one and Martinelli was supposed to take it. So he was the designated penalty taker. And Arteta did say he was surprised Saka took it. Saka then scored, got that confidence back. And the next game, Martinelli wasn't on the pitch. So Saka took it again. Last day of the season, Martinelli won it and he took it instead of Saka. In pre-season, Saka won it, he took it. So I'm not convinced there is a designated penalty taker per se.
I think that's what the system is. I think it's if whoever in the front three, being Martinelli, Jesus, or Saka, wins the penalty, they'll take it. The question is though, if bloody Ben White wins it, who's going to take it then?
And that's when maybe whoever feels the best part of the quote from Odegaard comes in, and Saka having scored one, he feels the best. Now we know that Jesus has missed more professional penalties than he scored in his career for Brazil and City, so maybe he's not the first choice on that list. He might get given a couple if he wins them to get him off the mark, but I do think that Martinelli is ahead of Saka personally, like as an actual penalty taker. Like there's a reason why Arteta thought it was going to be him who's going to take it, because in training, he must be the best penalty taker. Now, to confuse matters even more, I know we don't expect Fabio Vieira to start, but immediately someone told me he's our best penalty taker just by arriving. So again, the technical level has raised. I wouldn't be surprised to see them just handing it around. Having said all that, I think we may also see Saka get more rest than he got. So it won't just be Martinelli. With 5 subs and the amount of games that Saka was overplayed last year, he had a hand to play in all 38 league games. He's also only 20. We don't want him to break down like what happened with Wilshere. And I think he will also be rested, and we may still get another winger. So I think all of these players in the attack are going to get rested when we're comfortably up. And
I mean, I hope that does happen, because against Sevilla, I was stressing. I was thinking it was 77 minutes, and I was thinking, why has he not made a bloody sub?
And he got kicked as well, yeah. I thought he was going to sub them early after the 4-0 half-time, but I guess in a way it proves what we saw earlier, right? He started giving his first 11 for the Palace game, like 45 minutes, then 70, then 70. Like he's giving more minutes to the guys he's going to start with. So in some ways, I was happy to see that from a minutes perspective, like Martinelli's had a lot of preseason minutes, as has Saka, but it makes me feel quite assured that it is his place to lose. And Smith Rowe, he's still not in the full team training. He's ruled out of the first game.
He's a great option to have off the bench, though, isn't he?
It is, but I think just to Glenn's point, I'm not convinced Smith Rowe necessarily comes on as early as people think. Like it won't be 60, 70 minutes. I think it could be like as late as 80 minutes that Smith Rowe's coming on. There is the niggling doubt of Nketiah.
I think it depends on the game state, though, isn't it? Like if it is 3-0, then I think I
you
personally
protect
think
them potentially.
I think he will come on because I think Arteta wants to probably ease him in so that he's got that rhythm for the Europa group stages, for example. But if obviously it's quite tight, we're potentially 1-0, then who knows? But I think it's entirely dependent on game state, to be honest. But like I said, we're going to be winning 3-0 every game, so they're coming on early.
I think just the key thing is that 2 million saving can go a long way. And I think if you do go for Saka and Jesus, that's fine as well. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's just there are great other 8 million assets, but they all seem to have a doubt over them, whereas Saka doesn't. And I think that's where the power of Saka is, because Diaz, I'm not so convinced that he's the best third Liverpool asset. Like I do like Robson. He's proven it year in, year out, right?
Intrigued you've said that because I've currently got him, but you're making me doubt that now. So
so Mahrez and Foden, it's difficult to know what's going on there. Grealish as well. Then you got Mount. Like he's great, but like could I wait till Chelsea's fixtures are a little bit better from game week 3 onwards? Maybe. So there's just a lot of doubt for me there. Which Mount is the one I'm on. Maddison as well. He's got some great attacking fixtures for the first 3, right?
That Newcastle rumour, though, isn't it? Apparently they're coming back in. So they had a bid of 40 and then 50 million rejected, and Leicester wants 60. So it'll be interesting to see if Newcastle go back in with that.
Yeah, it sounds like Rodgers wants to hold on to him, and I think it was Fofana. He wants to hold on to them, so maybe they'll stay rigid. I don't know, but I think overall the key takeaway is that, like, from an FPL point of view, especially with the fixture difficulty rating for the first 8 weeks, I think we were second for attack on Hub and joint like fourth for defense. It is a great time, especially at the underpriced value, to go for at least 2, I would say. But we will probably see most teams are tripled up. Something that's interesting is obviously when you look at just say ownership on official FPL, that's everyone who plays. But there was a video recently from FPL Focal, and I contributed to it. I sent him my team, and a lot of kind of managers with top finishes sent him their teams, and he gave a percentage of the player picks based on like these expert managers, as he calls it. In there, Jesus was 96% picked, not 72%. Only Trent Alexander-Arnold had more picks than him at 100%. Martinelli was 75.5% picked by these elite managers. So this is what I'm trying to say, that the value is there. Saka wasn't even, he's not on the screen. The screen goes down to 13% picked. He's not there. So yes, he is great, but just that, like, for the first few weeks, it just seems like incredible value what could happen with Martinelli. In terms of other assets, what's interesting is Kane was 64% picked in this list. And obviously in the official numbers, he's only 26% picked. So again, there's a big difference between maybe veteran managers going for proven players in the Premier League. Haaland was only 37% as opposed to, say, 50% in their general masses. So there are some interesting numbers there. Ramsdale is 42% picked there.
Oh, wow. That's quite a lot. Yeah. I wasn't expecting
He's hugely picked. In fact, he is the highest picked goalkeeper amongst this sample.
More than 4.5. Well, yeah, I guess if he's 42, would be. Bloody hell.
Yeah, so below him, there is the likes of Edison at 29%, Sanchez at 29%, and then no other keeper over 13%. Zinchenko is the only other defensive asset in here at 13.6% owned. He just makes the cut. So
what were the Spurs win backs like in that? Because I'm struggling on them.
So Perisic is 25.5%, which is similar to his overall ownership. James is 56%, which is a lot higher than his overall ownership. I think especially when news of Calvert-Lewin out, it's gone that way. But that's what I was kind of saying. Like, as great as Ramsdale is, there is the chance that could you, with a Sanchez in goal, could you go from like a Gabriel or a Zinchenko to a Perisic? Could you go from a Perisic to a James? Like, these $500,000, like if you go from Neto down to Bailey, who plays against Bournemouth in the first week, like, could you go up again like another tier? So these 0.5 to 1 millions could make a massive difference. And I think there'll still be a lot more tinkering to come. And we'll look at Arteta's presser. Maybe in his press conference, he says something about the penalty taker. But let's kind of wrap it up there.
I agree. Let's wrap up. But just on that, when we signed Willian, he did confirm in the press conference before Fulham that Aubameyang was still on penalty. So I'm hoping we do get some sort of clarity on that. But yeah, who knows? Let's keep an eye out. But yeah, I think that's a wrap, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been good to chat to you about the season expectations, Palace preview, and some FPL. Yeah. We'll be back with the the Palace review on Sunday.
Yep.
In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the episode, please do leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers, so it'll be massively appreciated. Any questions you have, do let us know on Twitter ahead of the deadline as well. Any final tinkering or thoughts about your FPL teams and which Arsenal assets to go for. But otherwise, yeah, we were the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast, and looking forward to being back and going twice a week and doing short kind of 30-minute episodes every week with all of you, and get the word out and help us kind of on our way.
Yeah, but yeah, come on, Arsenal, Friday, big game.
Up the Arsenal, man, big time. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you guys on Sunday for the review.